Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this webinar, Threat Intelligence Gateway, an unconventional weapon for an unconventional war. My name is Alyssa Shames. I'm a marketing manager at LookingGlass, and with me today is our Director of Product Management, Kinshuk Pahare. Let's give everyone a few minutes to join before we get started. As a reminder, everyone is on mute, so please utilize the chat function that's in BrightTalk, and we'll answer all questions at the end. And of course, this is being recorded, so if you need to listen to this at a later date, you can do that. So again, we'll give everyone a few seconds to join, and then Kinshuk will start. We're going to give people another 30 seconds to join, and then we will be starting.
All right. Thanks, Alyssa. My name is Kinshuk Pahare. I'm Director of Product Management at LookingGlass. And today we are going to talk about a new category of security appliances called Threat Intelligence Gateway and spend some time explaining the feature set of LookingGlass ScoutShield, our newest product offering in this segment. So before we get into the meat of the presentation, I wanted to share an interesting article from the military, and I'm a big military buff, so interesting article on operationalizing threat intelligence from the field. Late 90s, there was Predator drones were used primarily for recon work, and during one of the recon mission, the drone stumbled upon an intelligence and a group of terrorists who were hiding. And because of the challenges in operationalization, it took time to sort of use that threat intel for some actual work to act on the intelligence. And one of the analysts from security agency was frustrated, and his response was, hey, why can't we put a missile on this recon drone? So while we talk about the rest of the presentation, think about how difficult it is to operationalize threat intelligence in the cybersecurity world, and let's see if you can relate to this story. So let's talk about some of the problem statements. The stats are from the latest Cisco's annual cybersecurity report. On an average, a security analyst is tasked with handling over 5,000 alerts in a given day. This finding is consistent with other presentations like other research institutions like SANS. And because of the sheer volume of the alerts, there is a notion of analyst alert fatigue. And because of that, 44% of alerts are never investigated, never looked into, which creates a huge blind spot when it comes to threat intelligence. And because 44% of alerts are never investigated, around 54% of the legitimate alerts are not mitigated, not acted upon. So because it's a volume problem, it's a numbers problem, which results in loss of customer, loss of opportunities, and loss of revenue. And the worrying part is that because these threat alerts and threat intels are not operationalized and not mitigated, it creates a huge blind spot, and it creates even more work for security analysts down the line. Now, even when a security analyst stumbles upon some interesting threat intelligence which has to be acted upon immediately, there is a question of sort of which security appliance should this threat intel be sent to. Now, firewall is usually the right answer, and firewall is typically the answer when it comes to blocking a specific traffic. But firewall administrators have different priorities than a security analyst might have. In the past life, I used to be a firewall product manager, so I can relate to this part where, firewall admins requests are, hey, give me a rule set which is easy to manage. Give me object-based policies and object group-based policies so that I can combine a set of endpoints and servers into groups and create segmentation and access control policies around that. And obviously, the biggest task for a firewall admin or any network admin is to make sure that there is uninterrupted network and application availability. So because of this huge requirement, because there is an implicit deny at the end of a firewall rule set, the firewall admin has to be extra careful, and that's where there are change management policies in place to make sure that you are not willy-nilly editing the policy table, and as a result of which you are compromising the availability of a specific application or availability of or network access of a group of hosts. So all of this is good when it comes to administrating a firewall. But what happens is that a security analyst, when they have access to or they have come up with a threat intelligence which is A, immediate and has to be acted on in real time, and B, is something which is not which is sort of in line with the overall organizational security posture. It's like critical to make sure that the hosts do not access this particular threat, which means that a security analyst, have to have access to high quality threat intelligence, because obviously everything starts with the high quality threat intelligence. There are low false positive because, as you can imagine from the previous slide, if the security analyst is tasked with handling 5,000 alerts, they do not have the luxury to look at the alerts which are, false positive or false negative. Then they have to have an intelligent workflow, basically a workflow which helps them focus on threat intelligence, which is A, high quality, and B, pose the biggest threat to their organization. And there have to be mechanism and tool to make sure that they act on only those intelligence and they prioritize their workflow around those intelligence. But most importantly, they have to have a faster mechanism to deploy the threat intelligence and freedom to sort of operationalize this threat intelligence. Because the biggest challenge right now is that, hey, I found that this specific website is going to host a phishing website, and we have seen their phishing campaign through the emails on our Exchange servers, and it's important that we don't allow our users to click on the links which can potentially take their credentials or install a drive-by download. or a malware. The challenge is that once you have access to that intelligence, where do you insert a rule set in real time so that you can block that immediate threat? And that's why freedom to operationalize is extremely important. So to summarize, security admin's job is very hard. They're dealing with hundreds of threat feeds which have to be integrated in a platform which supports the workflow. They have to have, they're dealing with distinct formats. They shouldn't have to focus their attention on merging, normalizing, correlating all these threats. And they have to have intelligent workflows so that they can handle alerts in a meaningful way, so that they can focus their attention on high-quality alerts. And again, they have limited resources, and a lot of cases, again, there are a lot of industry survey around lack of talent in cybersecurity. And that's why it's difficult to hire and retain quality security analysts. That makes their job even harder. But say the security analysts, have access and they've got some threat intelligence. It's difficult to operationalize that threat intelligence because they don't have a dedicated appliance to operationalize that threat intelligence. They are always at the mercy of a firewall admin or a network admin, and they have to go through a slow, painful change management process to insert a rule in a firewall. And again, it's a very slow process, which means that the threat which is real right now may not be real 4 or 5 or 6 hours down the line. So they have to have a way to operationalize this. And then because of all these difficulties, we see there a significant increase year after year in security breaches, and the cost of the breaches is also increasing. So that's why there is a need to automate some of these security workflows. And what we believe is that there is a need to operationalize threat intelligence in a manner that is in line with organizational security policies, which is in line with their comfort with a specific threat. So it starts with access to high-quality threat intelligence, which provides broadest possible threat coverage, which has low false positive and false negative. Then it has to be bundled in a way that analysts can access it and operationalize it off of it. So for example, there is a need to have a threat intelligence platform which normalizes and correlates, which supports analyst workflows, which has some way of, creating threat intelligence and assigning scores to the threat intelligence based on the severity. And then the analysts have to have tools to prioritize higher value threat intel first, because we know that 54% of actual threat alerts are never acted upon. So if there is a way, the need is to have a mechanism to make sure that the threat intels are scored so that analysts can include those higher priority threat intels in their workflows. And obviously, the last but not least, a way to operationalize that threat intelligence through Threat Intelligence Gateway. There are a lot of analysts who are talking about this new category of threat intelligence appliances. The need is to sort of automate a big chunk of tasks where your high confidence threat alerts are always acted upon, and they get mitigated because they are high quality threat alerts, so that your security analysts get more time and more energy to focus on alerts which are sort of in the gray area. So Threat Intel Gateways help with acting upon and operationalizing the high quality threat intels that your analysts believe have reached a point where they have to be acted upon. So now let's see how LookingGlass address this threat, address this trend. So at LookingGlass, we believe in solving problem at every single level, starting with giving customers access to a very high quality threat intelligence. At the core of our offering is called MRTI, Machine-Readable Threat Intelligence. And let me spend some time on the 3 specific feeds. There are 7 feeds which are in offering. For this conversation, I'll focus my attention, or I'll focus this conversation on the 3 specific feeds, which are malicious C2, phishing URLs, and malicious URLs. So malicious C2 feed, this is, it's delivered on a daily and updated list of fully qualified domain lists, which are known to have infected command and control servers. As you guys know, that these command and control servers are used to exfiltrate data from the hosts which are talking to these command and controls. And this list of domains is generated by Virus Tracker, LookingGlass Virus Tracker, and sinkhole servers, which are always probing for the latest and the greatest threat alerts that are out there. And basically, these threats and these threat feed is delivered in real time. It's available through APIs as well as JSON, XML, and CSV. The second interesting feed is the phishing URL feed. This feed is again delivered in real time. So these are real-time streams of URLs that host phishing attacks. The feed is also quality controlled by our experienced multilingual security analysts. So the feed is human analyst vetted. And we have the phishing detection algorithms in place which look for presence of phishing activities in this through this feed. Now, phishing URLs are also gathered from a variety of sources, including spam email, domain registration, the web crawling techniques that we use, and is again delivered in real time. It's available through APIs as well as JSON and XML. And the last but not least, the surveillance malicious URL feed. This feed is again delivered in real time. That basically is a stream of URLs that attempt to infect user computers with malicious code when the user accesses the URL. So again, this is the set of URLs which we know host malware or malicious content which affects or infect the endpoint, and we actually have these delivered in again real time, available through APIs as well. So before I jump on the next slide, we have heard this consistently from many customers across verticals, across industries, that our threat feed is the best they have seen in the industry. The data has extremely low false positive and negative, and has the highest level of accuracy that they have seen. So this is a consistent feedback from our customers. Now, equipped with sort of this high-quality threat intel, we have another offering called LookingGlass Scout Threat Intelligence Platform. So Threat Intelligence Platform, consumes LookingGlass own feed as well as third-party and open-source feed, and to make sure that the security analysts have access to a high-quality threat feed. And what we do there is that we don't the platform is built by security analysts for security analysts, and we believe that security analysts shouldn't have to spend time correlating and combining threat feeds which are from different formats, different sources. And we believe that security analysts should focus their attention on the things that are more important for the overall security posture of the organization. Things like, focusing on the analyst workflow or doing third-party risk monitoring using the tool. So at the start, what we do is we actually combine all the threat feeds and create a scoring for each of the threat intel. And individual threat intels then can be bucketized and into different containers, or they can be bucketized based on their threat sources. And then security analysts, based on the threat score of a specific element or deviation in the threat score over a period of time can focus their attention on a specific bucket and, focus the attention where they see the most deviation in the threat score, which means that they are focusing their attention on things which are most important for their organization or which have the highest level of threat score, which reflect how deadly those specific alerts are. So with the threat intelligence platform, these are existing offering, machine-readable threat intelligence platform. We are proud to announce a new category or new product, ScoutShield, which is the Threat Intelligence Gateway. So with the Threat Intelligence Gateway is the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to operationalizing threat intelligence or achieving security automation so that the highest level or high quality the threat scores or threat feeds which are threat intel which is ranked as the worst possible can be acted upon immediately and automatically in real time, so that your security analysts can focus their attention on sort of the gray area where a threat could lie in a certain range where they are not sure if this is a bad threat or this is a false positive. So with this, there are two specific components: LookingGlass Threat Intelligence and a gateway appliance. As far as deployment is concerned, these sit next to a firewall. These complement your existing firewall deployment. From the security kill chain, folks are familiar with this diagram. The Threat Intelligence Gateway, ScoutShield Threat Intelligence Gateway, focus on initial recon, initial compromise, and it prevents a malware to establish foothold. So it focuses on the first three stages of a kill chain. Now, what exactly does it do, right? So let's figure out, how it prevents a set of a specific malware. So it sits in line. It protects organization from phishing, malicious URL, and malicious C2 attacks. And number one, it's automatic. So the threat feeds, the latest and the greatest threat feeds that ScoutShield acquires from LookingGlass, that threat feed, protects the organization from the malware or the phishing websites which have been active in last few hours, as few hours, and it protects the organization's computers or users from accidentally accessing those malicious content. Again, it minimizes the organization attack surface through automation. So because these are highest quality threat feeds, these gets blocked automatically and thereby reduces the organization's attack surface. If there are organizations have a security analyst team, it empowers security analyst team by giving them a place to insert their own custom threat intelligence and mitigate those threats in real time. And because it's an inline appliance, it keeps track of all the endpoints that are accessing a malicious C2 servers, thereby sort of creating like an alert so that security analysts and admins can focus on those endpoints which are infected and compromised. At the same time, it protects those endpoints from ever reaching those command and control servers. So now let's start with some of the characteristics of the hardware appliance itself. So one of the challenges when it comes to installing a new security appliance is, hey, whether my network guys are going to like this or not. So if it's a layer 3 appliance, there is always a conversation about routing and, how do I change the network to accommodate this? Because ScoutShield has no layer 3 presence. It has no MAC address. It's a bump in the wire. It's not visible. There are no topology changes required to insert this, which means it can be inserted next to a firewall without changing anything on the network level or on the security level. As far as mitigation action is concerned, the mitigation action can be directed to a specific host. It can be directed to a specific URL. Again, it supports full path URL mitigation, which means analysts can choose to insert rules which block a portion of a website. So they can block, say, www.espn.com/NHL and still allow the rest of the website to be accessible. And then it comes with, it's a zero-touch operation. So as with any security appliance, unlike any security appliance, ScoutShield doesn't require any long-term rule sets to be maintained. There are no policy management or change management processes required when it comes to ScoutShield, because at the end of the rule set, there is an implicit allow, which means if there are no rules and policies in place, the traffic is allowed. Unlike a firewall where there is an implicit deny, which means a change in the policy, or if you change a allow to a deny, it could bring down or it could compromise the availability of a set of applications. In a ScoutShield, there is an implicit allow, which means analysts are free to add and remove rules, which, as I said earlier, are surgical, which means there are no broad-based effect on the rest of the network. And then the best part is that rules get automatically updated. So to reflect the changes in the threat score, and to make sure that ScoutShield has the latest and the greatest threat feed, the rules get updated and automatically without requiring any human intervention. The hardware platform holds protection level 5 accreditation, which is the highest level of protection we have seen in the commercial appliances. Now, there are two different deployment options. There is a zero-touch operations, which means ScoutShield can directly talk to LookingGlass machine-readable threat intelligence threat feed and get protection from broad category of attacks, botnets, malicious URL, malicious domains. And these threat feeds are vetted by a LookingGlass security analyst, so no additional efforts are required from security analysts at the customer premise, or in cases where this deployment can be used in cases where the customers do not have a dedicated team of security analysts. If the organizations have a mature security practice and they have a team of security analysts looking into threat intelligence, they can leverage LookingGlass Scout Threat Intelligence platform. Again, the protection level is the same. It protects from the broad category of attacks, on top of which, because now you're using a threat intelligence platform, you can customize the threat intelligence that goes into ScoutShield. So, for example, say you are financial services, you can customize the threat intel to reflect the industry or the organization that you represent, and protect and insert those customized threat intel to ScoutShield and protect from those category of attacks that are directed to your industry or to you as an organization. So these are some of the feature sets. Again, in addition to automatic threat intelligence, customers can choose to insert 5-tuple rule sets, which are available in any firewall vendor. And customers can also insert their own HTTP rule sets. So again, as I said earlier, these are full path URL rule sets, which can be inserted to block access to the set of URLs or set of domains. To summarize, there are ScoutShield help customer automate a chunk of their security operations. It helps organizations operationalize their threat intelligence, and it equip the network. It equipped Threat Intelligence Gateway, ScoutShield Threat Intelligence Gateway, with the best, highest quality threat feed, and protects organization from phishing, malicious URL, and malicious domains. It supports flexible deployment options, so there is a zero-touch operations where a ScoutShield, where customer doesn't have to deploy their security analyst. The threat feeds which customers get are vetted by a LookingGlass security analyst, and they are of the highest quality. In the second category, if the customer has a team of dedicated security analysts, they can choose to install customized threat intel, which is tailored to their industry or their organization, and block those threats on a ScoutShield. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Alyssa, and we'll take some questions. Alyssa, now?
Thanks, Kinshuk. It looks like we have a few questions from the audience.
Okay.
So the first one is,
so the first question is, what is the key difference between two ScoutShield deployment modes? Okay. So the key distinction, so as far as similarities are concerned, both have access to the highest quality threat feed that comes from LookingGlass Machine-Readable Threat Intelligence. The distinction is that in one case, in the zero-touch case, we understand that not all the organizations have a team of security analysts. So in first case, in zero-touch case, LookingGlass security analysts vet the feed before these go into and consumed by ScoutShield. In a customized threat intelligence deployment, organizations who have a dedicated team of security analysts, they can actually customize the threat intelligence feed that goes into the ScoutShield. So they can customize it to their own industry. If they are part of a public utility, or if they are part of financial services, they can customize that part. And then they can further customize it to their own organization. And the feed which goes into ScoutShield is sort of tailor-made to their organization. Second question is, what is the recommended place to deploy ScoutShield? As far as the recommendation is concerned, since the ScoutShield has no IP address, no MAC address, it's a bump in the wire, it can sit adjacent to a firewall. The recommendation is that you put it next to your internet edge deployment or edge firewall, and which helps offload some of the blocking and mitigation action to the ScoutShield appliance. What are the sources of MRTI, and how do we acquire them? Okay, so machine-readable threat intelligence is an existing threat feed, which is a function of LookingGlass' own proprietary algorithms, third-party feeds, as well as some of the open-source feed. Within the LookingGlass proprietary algorithms, we have ways to crawl the surface web, deep web, and dark web. So deep web is your social media, Twitter, Facebooks, and dark web is the Tor/Onion network. Plus, we have our own. We acquired a company called Virus Tracker. So Virus Tracker is a large sinkhole deployment which keeps track of the latest botnets which are pinging our sinkholes, thereby telling us that the number of endpoints which are infected and what kind of botnet they are infected with. Along with these, we partner with a lot of third parties, and we normalize and correlate all that threat feed into one offering. So this is the last question. Now I'll thank you all for your time. Now I'll hand it off to Alyssa.
Thanks again, Kinshuk. And again, thanks everyone for joining us. If you have any more questions about ScoutShield or Threat Intelligence Gateways, we have a bunch of stuff on our website. We have a data sheet. We have a video that goes over how ScoutShield works. And our CTO, Alan Thompson, wrote a really great blog that gets a little more technical into how Threat Intelligence Gateways work. So please visit any of these links. Also, you can find us on social media. Our Twitter handle is LG_cyber. And with that, if you have any other questions, please send us an email at contact@lookingglasscyber.com. And I want to thank you for your time today.